everyone, welcome back to my channel and to another video, and in this one I'm going to be going through a really easy trick that will help improve your colour pencil drawings and help you to add some really fine details to them. In this video I'll first demonstrate how you can use this technique, and then I'll take you through a demonstration of how I used it in a full coloured pencil piece. Now all of the materials I will be mentioning in this video will be listed in the description. But anyway guys, let's get into the video. For this technique, you are going to need one of these little crafting knives. This is an X-Acto knife, and again, it will be listed in the description. And they are very cheap. I got mine off Amazon, and it's going to change your colour pencil drawings forever. So I mainly use this technique for things like fur or hair, or when I want to create details. So let's run through how I would use this method. First, when I create my drawing where I want to apply this technique, I start off by adding a base coat of a really light colour, and I'll talk through why I do this in a minute. So I either use something like a cream colour or a white colour, and I just add this to the area where I want to use the technique that we are going through. So I just create a really nice even layer of very light shading, and for this demonstration I'm going to work on a section of fur. So once I've got in that base layer, I go in with my other normal colours that I'm using, like my browns and dark browns, to build up the rest of the fur texture. And so let me talk about this technique that we're going to be doing. So basically, when you use this X-Acto knife and use it to scrape up some of the coloured pencil, what it does is it removes that top layer of coloured pencil to reveal the lighter layers underneath. And so this will reveal those lighter details and give really cool highlights and details. And why this technique is so important is because it gives you finer details than you are able to get with pencils. So it really helps with that realistic look if you're going for that in your colour pencil drawings. Once I added that base layer, I built up those browns and those dark browns until I was happy with the colours that I've got down on my paper. And then when I wanted to create this extra detail with the X-Acto knife and fur texture, I just went in lightly with the X-Acto knife and used it simply to scrape up that top layer of coloured pencil. And this shows why we needed that base layer of cream underneath, because when we lift this top layer of coloured pencil, the brown and the lighter brown, it's revealing the first layer that we added. So if we want to create highlights, we need to start by adding a light base tone. And I'll do another demonstration in a minute to show you what a difference adding that base layer makes. Now, one thing that you want to avoid doing is trying to cut into your paper. We are not trying to cut or indent our paper in any way. We're simply just trying to lightly scrape off the top layer of coloured pencil. So you can be very gentle with this. We're not trying to cut into the paper at all. If you do that, it will not only damage your paper, but it won't give you the technique and the look that we're going for. You can see how much of a difference this technique has made, and I like to use a little brush to wipe away all of the colour pencil bits, and you can see how much detail we are able to get just by going in with that knife. Now let me show you the same thing, but this time I'm not adding that base layer of cream that I did before. And you'll still be able to use this technique and you will get the detail there, but it won't be able to create as bright of a highlight as possible, because when we remove that top layer of coloured pencil, it's revealing the lighter layer underneath, so your first layer of coloured pencil that you added to the paper. And so if you go straight in with that light brown, then when you remove the top layer of coloured pencil, it's just going to reveal that light brown, because that's the colour that's stuck to the paper. So when you go in first with a light colour, you're sort of preserving that highlight so that you're able to get a really bright highlight. But if you're unsure what I mean, try this for yourself. Try using a light colour to add a base first, and then do a sample without that base colour, and you'll see, like here, I'm able to get the details, but they are nowhere near as bright and as obvious and apparent as they were in that first little swatch that I did. So as you can see here, I have drawn a Highland cow using coloured pencils, and I used the X-Acto knife technique a lot in this drawing because, as you can see, there is a lot of fur that I was drawing with this one. So I just want to run you through my process for how I created this drawing. Again, I started off by adding that base layer to the whole of the fur because again, I wanted the highlights to really show up and I wanted it to be really obvious where I'd use the knife technique. So I wanted to add this base layer of cream to make those details and highlights really pop when I use the knife technique. One thing that you don't want to do is press too hard when you're trying to get your base down because obviously we're using a very light colour, so it may not seem like you're putting much down, but try and refrain from adding a lot of pressure. You just want a light, even layer of shading. Again, then I started to build up my darker shadows. I actually went in with my darkest shadowed colour, so my dark brown tone. I think I was using the dark umber from the Prismacolor set, and I used this to establish where all of the shadows in the fur was. But you could do it another way. You could build up the midtones next and then leave the shadows for last. This is just the way that I like to do it. I like to get in the darkest values first because then I feel like it helps me judge all of the other values. And I just went through the whole of the fur and repeated this step throughout the whole of the drawing before I moved on to the next step. And again, you don't want to apply a lot of pressure because we are going to be building up multiple layers. And if you was to apply a lot of pressure, then you'd be burnishing the paper, which would mean that it wouldn't then be able to take on additional layers. One tip that I do have for this technique is that it works best on smoother paper. So I'm using the Strathmore Bristol smooth paper for this, and you don't have to use a paper that is that smooth, but the smoother the paper, the better it works. So if you are using quite a rough paper and you are finding that the technique doesn't really work that well, then it's probably the paper that you're using. Also, softer pencils like the Prismacolors or the Caran d'Ache tend to work a little bit better than pencils that are really hard because the soft colour pencil scrapes off a lot easier. Again, I'm now just building up those midtones, and when I'm drawing fur, I always go in the direction the fur is going in, and I like to go in line pencil strokes. I don't go back and forth or in like circular motions. I just go in lines that are going with the direction the fur is going in. I finish off these layers of colour pencil on the fur by going in and glazing some colours over the top, which will bring a bit more vibrancy to the fur. So I use like a brightish orangey colour and actually a reddy purple to give it a bit more vibrancy. And this is how I prep my drawing ready for my X-Acto knife technique. I make sure that I've got a lot of layers down before I go in and start adding the details with the knife. So now we've finished, it's time to go in and add all of the details to the fur with the knife. I like to use the knife in two different ways when I'm drawing fur. Firstly, I like to use it to help create more texture to the fur, like for example adding details to each section of the fur, and then I also like to add a bit more detail by adding things like flyaway bits of fur, which really helps to bring up motion to the fur because at the moment everything is very much in sections, whereas with the knife, because it scrapes off the coloured pencil, you can add flyaway hairs that are overlapping different sections. And this just really helps to bring motion to the fur and really helps to give it a realistic look. And this is exactly the same as if I was drawing hair. I like to go in and add little details that sweep over the different sections. So it looks like there's wind blowing in the fur and making it a bit messier, whereas if everything's just slicked down and there's no real movement there or layering, then it just doesn't look as realistic or as interesting. And I like to be very slow when I'm doing this technique, try not to rush it, and also make sure that you are going in with that fluffy brush to remove those little coloured pencil crumbs so that it's easier to see the section that you're working on. Also, it works in different ways depending on what angle you hold the knife at. So if you feel like not much coloured pencil is coming off, then try holding your pencil a different way and approaching it from a different angle. And as you can see, I'm always going in lines that are sweeping with the direction the fur is going in. But you don't just have to use this for fur or for hair. You can use it in any colour pencil drawing that you're working on. I like to use it for highlights in the eyes, or like with the eyelashes, or adding texture to the skin, especially if it's an older person, something like wrinkles. It's great for drawing older people's skin, so wrinkles or anything like that, stubble, it's great for. And like I said, just adding highlights in the eyes, in the white of the eyes, or details to the iris, it's great for, because it's great for texturing. You don't just have to use it for highlights. But here you can see the final results of the Highland cow drawing once I went in and added in the horns, and you can see how we got some really thin, tiny details in there that it would have been really difficult to get with colour pencils. But here you can see the final drawing. I really hope you enjoyed this video and you learnt something new. Let me know if you want to give this technique a try. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new around here, and even tick that bell icon so you do get notified on my future videos. But that is it from me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everybody.